Good evening, everybody. How are you all? You're all very welcome. It's great to see such a brilliant attendance here tonight. I just turned off my own phone there, or silenced it. As chair, I said we better not be interrupted. We're obviously recording tonight, so if everybody could just check their phones, please. Thanks very much. So my name is Paul Ryan. I'm your host there for this evening. I'm the CEO of Auxilia Group. We're a business management consultancy business based here in Naas. I was here last week speaking to everybody about fundraising and getting ready for finance, so I must have done a reasonable job that they asked me back. So I'm delighted to welcome you all here tonight, and on behalf of the Mid-East local enterprise offices covering Wicklow, Meath and Kildare, to this exciting launch event for the Postgraduate Certificate on Innovation and Enterprise Development. This learning opportunity is delivered in collaboration with Trinity College Dublin, and in developing this opportunity with Tangent, Trinity's Ideas Workspace, the objective of the local enterprise office is to accelerate innovation capability in the regions and to ensure that business clients of the local enterprise offices have a competitive edge and the ability to be global leaders in what they want to achieve. We have a really exciting agenda here tonight for the team and everybody that's involved to discuss all things innovation, and really looking forward to the event and the speakers. We have a keynote speaker, Dermot Casey. Very welcome, Dermot. We'll also hear from the Tangent team to learn more about Tangent and the whole programme that's been launched here this evening. And we'll finish with a panel discussion where our special guests will share their experiences and their journey on R&D and innovation as well. So we'll introduce all those people later on. Before we commence, we have some apologies and also some introductions to do. So first of all, we have an apology from Jackie McNabb. Jackie's the head of enterprise. And let's go. You're okay. So Jackie's the head of enterprise and economic development in Kildare County Council. She couldn't be here tonight. Somebody else double booked her on a personal level because from a business point of view, she would have been really keen to be here. So Jackie sends her apologies. We do, however, have representatives in the room from each of the three local enterprise offices. And I'd maybe ask you just to stand up and just introduce yourselves, because obviously later on, when we're having a coffee and a donut downstairs later on, at least you can say hello to those people, and we faces to names. So if you want to go ahead there, please.
Oh, thanks, Claire. Hello, everybody. Delighted to meet you all. My name is Rpl I head up the local enterprise office in Wicklow. So if there's any Wicklow businesses here, looking forward to meet you all for coffee. And we are absolutely thrilled with this partnership with Trinity. So we're looking forward to this event and to the training program kicking off later in the year. Lovely to meet you all.
Joe English from the Meath local enterprise office. So you're all very welcome tonight, and looking forward to working with you all.
Thanks, Joe.
I recognise a lot of faces in the room. For any of you that I haven't met, my name is Claire Dunleavy, and I am with the local enterprise office here in Kildare, and very active with the Merits team as well.
Very good. Thanks, Claire. We also have from Tangent the head of engagement. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Cullen, so delighted to be here tonight and looking forward to the session.
Very good. Very welcome on you. I did say to the ladies earlier on, nobody told me of the memo about the blue rig outs tonight, so apologies. I was trying to manage all the other details, so sorry I missed that piece. We'll see if the next person. So we also have the tax manager with Grant Thornton. And Grant Thornton are an excellent supporter of Merits, as we know, and give a lot of support to the whole facility here. And it's great that I suppose this event has been launched in this location, which is really all about innovation, R&D, and helping enterprises to develop a startup, if you like. So we'll call on that individual to introduce himself.
Yeah. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Murphy. I'm the tax director with Grant Thornton over in Newbridge in our Kildare office. So thanks very much for having us over, and delighted to participate and look forward to the conversations.
Very good. Thanks, everybody. And all the team will be available downstairs afterwards if anybody wants to catch up with them directly, if you like. So thanks very much. So without further ado, we're going to go to our keynote speaker, Dermot Casey. So Dermot is CEO of the Industry Research and Development Group, IRDG, since January 22. IRDG is a non-profit business group, is the voice of Irish innovation, representing hundreds of companies engaged in research and innovation nationally. IRDG has led learning, collaboration and the growth of Irish research and innovation for over 30 years, directly supporting, networking and advocating for its members. Dermot's background is in technology and innovation. He's worked as strategic advisor to hundreds of technology companies in spaces as diverse as AI, IoT and medtech. He was Director of Innovation Consultancy Resolve Partners and Venture Leader at NDRC. He's also a board member of the National Standards Authority of Ireland, NSAI, and a board member of the Festival of Curiosity, which I interestingly read that I had to look it up curiously. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, but you need to look at it yourself. But I think, Dermot, when we talk about innovation, it's safe to say to be an innovator, you need to be curious, safely to say. Yeah, so go have a look at that. Dermot's going to speak to us tonight on the importance of innovation to the growth and success of SMEs. We're really lucky to have him here to speak to us. I had a longer profile provided, but I didn't want to embarrass you in terms of all your other experience. But Dermot, you're very welcome, and let's give him a round of applause and look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. Can everyone hear me? I've been told I can use my outdoor voice to project so that we can hear everybody down at the back of the room. So the title, when Claire asked me to give the talk, the draft was the importance of innovation to the growth and success of SMEs. And to be honest, it's an easy title for me to actually talk about, because how I'd consider it, I would see it as sort of, it's of vital importance to the growth and success of SMEs, but it's also vital to the growth and success of everyone in business. And I'll try and explain that here this evening, with a particular focus on SMEs, and I'll give some specific examples around SMEs. Paul sort of gave the background. I'll just give a very, very brief synopsis of myself, more sort of my journey as much as anything else, rather than things that I've done. So, sort of started working in large companies out of college. Started working in the ESB, so spent a number of years working in the ESB. Then spent 11 years nearly working in GE and GE Money. Large corporate, doing a lot of travel around Europe, working in the Irish business, a lot of technology work. I'm a geek by background, right? So background in computer science, graduated computer science out of UCD, then went back and did an MBA, so started to figure out business a little bit better. Then went sort of from the largest company in the world, so GE had 350,000 people at the time, a massive multinational conglomerate, into the smallest company in the world. So some of you may have heard Mark Little's business, Kinsen, was sold this afternoon. So myself and Mark were there in Storyful for a number of years together. So worked with Mark from the two of us up until that business was sold then at the end of 2013. It grew up to 35 people, sold out to News Corp. So experience going from large businesses really into small businesses, and sort of Storyful was probably the most innovative business I'd worked in that time, and needed to be innovative to survive, right? It wouldn't have done anything without innovation. I then spent a couple of years consulting, working with startups, working with SMEs, working with scaling companies, a couple of large corporates, around technology, around product development, a bit around business strategy. And then spent a couple of years in NDRC, again advising and investing in and supporting the growth and development of startups and scale-up technology companies before joining IRDG at the start of this year. So Paul also mentioned Festival of Curiosity. So Festival of Curiosity is a festival of imagination, essentially for adults and children. So we talk about playful days and curious nights. So do take a look at it on the website. Activities essentially take place over 4 days over the summer, funded and supported by Science Foundation Ireland. But I would say curiosity really is at the heart of innovation. I recently joined the board of NSAI, and see standards underpin innovation in some interesting ways as well, but I won't dwell too much on that this evening. So that's sort of my own background. In terms of IRDG, so I would describe IRDG as an organisation that helps companies create the future. So IRDG is in its 30th year, originally founded as a representation organisation, representing companies doing R&D and engaged in innovation, and trying to create the right environment for those companies. So our mission essentially is around creating a culture of innovation that's cross-sectoral. So everybody from your Medtronics and Microsoft's large corporates to your early stage technology companies, to Tricells down in Killarney, to your so everywhere across the country you'll find IRDG members. So anybody who's engaged in research and innovation. So we support and help those companies who are engaged in creating elements of the future through research and innovation. We also help them shape the future, and by shaping the future, it's about creating that right environment. So R&D tax credits, which I'll touch on very briefly later on, which are really useful for companies that are engaged in innovation. So we were heavily involved in the development and design of those, and we still work with Revenue and Department of Finance to support and enhance those and drive that forward. I also talk about how we help companies adapt to the future. So there's a huge amount of change going on, right, between sustainability and climate change and everything else. Digital transformation, critical part. So a lot of what I'll talk about this evening is focused on change and surviving and coping through change for companies and organisations. So we work with our members to help them adapt to that future as well, to work and deliver on a more sustainable future and create a better future for them, for their organisations. Really, essentially what we're doing is we're driving Irish innovation. So we are entirely funded by our members, so we don't have any support from the state. Slide looks, just noting some changes in the colour scheme from what's in front of me, right? So we're working to drive forward Irish innovation. So and we do that through our representation, through our advocacy. We also do it through networking and bringing companies together, cross-fertilizing ideas, sharing ideas. We run a lot of events and activities for members. We run training programs and courses as well, and a lot of one-on-one engagement. We do a lot of direct consultancy and support with members as well. So there's a lot we do. Love to have more, some of you here in the room, or all of you here in the room, engaged in IRGG. So please feel free to take a look at us and have a chat with me afterwards if you're interested in membership. Ultimately, times change. So IRGG has been around for 30 years. Our purpose, our underlying purpose, our mission for creating a cross-sectoral culture of innovation really doesn't change, the underlying purpose. And that really goes to the heart of what I'm talking about this evening. So when I talk about the importance of innovation for businesses, when I talk about particularly the importance of innovation for SMEs, what do I mean by innovation? What am I talking about? Essentially, I'm talking about the introduction of something new, a new product, a new service, that actually creates value for members, for customers, for individuals, for organisations. So ultimately, it's not just about doing new things and things that are whiz bang or look wonderful from a technology perspective. It's really about creating something that actually adds value from an end customer and end user's perspective. So that to me is the key for what real and true innovation is. People familiar with the S-curve model of innovation? Stick up your hands if you've heard of it before, come across it. Okay, so a good number of you have, right? So this idea that essentially innovations go through this S-curve. So new innovation is introduced, goes through a period of rapid growth, matures, still potentially make lots of money, but much more competitive, right? So it goes through a sort of a cycle. And you see this in relation to the introduction of new products and services. So something new is created, it's introduced for the first time, then it's custom built, right? So people are building things by hand, once-offs, startups refer to MVPs, minimal viable products and so on. Then things become productized, you try and get distribution, you try and sell lots and lots of it, and then over time, people compete with you, things become more of a commodity. So you can still make some revenues out of it, but you don't make as much as you might early on. So it goes through this life cycle. And take an example in relation to the internet, right? So Tim Berners-Lee, back in the late 80s, invented the World Wide Web when he was working in CERN, the Nuclear Research Centre in Europe. So he essentially handcrafted that, built it, put it together, put it out into the world. Within a number of years, you had websites popping up. Back in the 90s, people would spend up to £10,000 for 10 pages of hand-built HTML. So a lot of money to be made by people by building very, very basic websites for companies for the first time. Then companies started to introduce products. Some of you may have heard of these, Dreamweaver, Front Page, Coffee Cup, and so on. So you see the productization. So it then becomes almost a profession by which people can actually build things. And then these days you can get a website, for anything from 20 quid, 50 quid, 100 quid, a couple of £100, and use off-the-shelf products like WordPress, which essentially run about a third of the websites globally at this point. So you see that commoditization of things over time. And you see this in terms of how products live, right? So something that's new and rare, and creating something new and rare can be hard to do. As it actually transitions, there's a huge amount of value to be captured. So if you're in a company and you're looking to grow that company, right? What you're doing is you're looking to capture some additional value for that company. And the best way of doing that is by introducing and figuring out how to distribute new products and services, how you can scale those products and services out, something that hasn't potentially existed previously. And you see this in terms of technology adoption. So that S-curve lives everywhere. So these are, dozens of products that have been introduced over time, everything ranging from fridges to TVs to vacuum cleaners. And you see in some cases that those adoption curves actually turning almost into straight lines in terms of things being rapidly adopted, including things like social media and so on. But a lot of these technologies build on each other, right? So without electricity, you're not going to have anything else. Without the internet, you're not going to have technology companies, and you're not going to have Facebook. Without cellular infrastructure, you're not going to have mobile phones and mobile internet and so on. So a lot of these things layer on top of each other over time. And that's an interesting feature of technology. Not every technology works, right? Just because something is interesting and innovative doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get adopted by people. So 3D TV, a lot of TV companies tried to make a lot of money and lost a lot of money. Trying to force TVs on people that people essentially didn't want. So that's the critical part, is it has to create value from the customer's perspective, whether the customer is another business or an end consumer. You see this in consumer products generally. So this is an example of a startup juice device that was selling for 400 quid. A huge amount of money raised in relation to it, huge amount of hype around it for a period of time, and literally imploded because nobody wanted its product. So it wasn't creating value for people. So that creation and capture of value is really, really important in terms of thinking about innovation and growth. So really what we're talking about innovation, and when we're talking about the introduction of innovation, is we're talking about the introduction of change, right? So things are changing, things are evolving, and things are shifting over time. That S-curve is really is a pattern of diffusion of change over time, right? And change essentially comes in two forms. Change in kind, where something is qualitatively different from what's preceded it, right? A car is very, very different from a horse, right? They're both modes of transport. They're both ways of getting from one place to another, but it's qualitatively very different. Change in degree, something is continually improving over time. And both types of change are important, and innovation in both areas is important. So change in kind brings new possibilities. Right, so it's a disruption from what's preceded it. It creates the possibility around new worlds. It creates a new discontinuity. Right, so the introduction of the original iPhone is an example of a discontinuous change. Right, so that, we had Nokias and we had all sorts of other devices before, but the iPhone itself, that moment stands out as the creation of something that was quite different. The initial development of the World Wide Web, again, was a discontinuous innovation, right? Something was different from it before. The iPhone 14, which just went on sale a couple of weeks ago, again, is recognizably an iteration. Technologically, it's significantly superior, much better camera, much better memory, much better everything else. But it's a change in kind rather than a change in degree. So both of these are important, and both of these are ways of capturing value from people. And organizations really need to be involved in both of them. So what we see is... I do love the colour scheme, right? So I swear the original slide is all orange, right? So you see these waves of innovation over time, right? You see these as we move from one technology to another. So as we moved from, if anybody's old enough to remember DOS, and I think probably a few of us in the room are, so moving from DOS to Windows, moving from desktop to laptop, and moving from laptop into mobile computing over time. So you see these waves of change, and you see these introductions of new platforms which create new opportunities. And the really interesting thing for companies is opportunity exists here, right? Where traditional business is maturing and a new business is emerging, there's threats to existing businesses, but there's huge opportunities to be found in creating something new in that space. So there's a lot of opportunity for companies to create something new. So the emergence of new platforms essentially typically creates huge amounts of ecosystems and huge amounts of opportunities for companies in that space. And it's always an interesting place to look for opportunity. I think any company really requires, if you're a company with 5 people or a company with 10 people, you might say, right, I can't really have, 3 separate teams, right? But you really need 3 types of individuals three types of roles in your organization. You need people who are focused on innovation, who are focused on creating that new. You need people who are focused on developing products, scaling products out, and focused on the continuous change. And you need people who are focused on efficiency and development and optimization of things that are actually going on. Most big companies fail because they end up somewhere over here, right? Somewhere on the product into the efficiency side. They lose that innovative capability. A lot of the time, large organizations buy smaller companies because they're trying to buy that innovative capability and bring it back into the organization because they don't understand how the world's shifted and changed. They're stuck on a previous iteration or a previous technology or a previous loop. And you see this over and over and over again. So, you know, some of the most acquisitive companies out there are your Microsofts and your Googles and your Facebooks and so on. So they're trying to bring, you know, so they have billions, right? They can do an awful lot of innovation and development in-house if they want. But a lot of that capability comes from outside the organization. So think about, you know, your organization, and do those capabilities exist inside your organization, or how will you develop those capabilities over time? Always focus on the customer, right? Peter Drucker said that the customer only wants to know what the product or service will do for him tomorrow, right? Obviously a less gender equal age, using the word him and focus on the word him, right? So, but the core point here is the customer doesn't care what you did for them yesterday. Eaten bread, soon forgotten. They're focused on their needs, their wants, their values, and they want to know how you're going to achieve and how you're going to fulfill those in the future, right? So you think about those layers of change, think about how the customer sees value, think about how you can deliver on that value. And the customer's needs and wants shift and change and evolve over time as well. So if you take something as simple as a cup of tea, if you go back a couple of decades in Ireland, right, so there was Bewley's shops all over the country. I remember as a kid going into Bewley's in Waterford and having a cup of tea and having a pastry and stuff with my mother. So they've essentially all disappeared. Apart from Bewley's on Westmoreland Street, there aren't Bewley's shops all over Ireland. They've pretty much been replaced with Starbucks, right? So the Starbucks and hundreds of Starbucks all over it. So ostensibly, one coffee shop replacing another, but, you know, so why is that? Something's much better at responding to what the consumer wants at a particular point in time, and is moving with those trends and moving with those demands and creating the products and services that the customer actually wants. And the customer and the products and services you think about, right? So I think about Starbucks, I go in and buy a cup of coffee or buy a cup of tea. Actually, 60% of Starbucks are selling, 6% of what they sell is cold drinks, right? Your frappuccinos, your iced lattes and other things, right? So again, you go back 5 or 6 years, 10 years, it was much more coffees and a small amount of teas and so on. Now it's ice drinks. So they're learning to evolve and learning to change with those customers as those customer demands shift and change and evolve. And that's essentially what we all have to do, right? If you don't change as fast as the environment, essentially in business, you're dead. So Jack Welch, who was CEO of GE, said that at one point, said, like, if you're not changing as fast as the environment around you, in the long term, you're dead as a business. So example of a shark, right? So sharks never stop swimming. Some of them live to be over 200 years old. They can't stop swimming. If they stop swimming because of how the buoyancy works, they fall to the bottom of the water, they're dead, right? There's one place in the world where sharks don't have to swim, where there's a shallow pool, where there's a current passing through, keeps them buoyant. They can sit and they can essentially just stay there, right? So there's small pockets where change doesn't happen very frequently, right? Where you can avoid change. But for most people, most companies, most of the time, change is an ongoing, it's a discontinuous process, it's a rapid and evolving process. So, if I asked you, and this is a question for the audience, so how many of your businesses have changed, the rate of change has increased over the last 2 years? A little or a lot? So put your hand up if the rate of change of the business or the industry that you're in has changed a little or a lot over the last 2 years. Hands up. Okay, so a reasonable number of you. So this was a survey that we did earlier in the year. So 250 companies responded to this survey. Huge cross-section of Irish industry. About 60-70% of the companies are Irish companies. About somewhere between 30 and 40% are FDI companies. So nearly 50% of the companies say things are changing much faster than they were 2 years ago. Nearly 40% are changing a little faster, and a small number are saying a similar pace. But nobody's saying that things are slower than they were 2 years ago. So the rate of change is continuing to increase. interesting when you look in here, what you find is regulated industries, right? If you're in medical devices or you're in pharma, you're moving, the rate of change is at the rate of pace of regulation. Okay, so you can measure the rate of change and you can see the rate of change. So different industries move at different speeds, but understanding the speed and the rate of change of the industry you're in is really, really critical to understand where you're going to have strategic awareness, to have situational awareness, and to understand where the opportunities lie. So we all don't want to end up as food for sharks. So we need to think about how we're going to innovate as organisations. Except if you're Tom Persky. Anybody want to guess what Tom Persky's business is? Any guesses? Printing. No, not printing. Not a bad guess. Cooling systems. No, not cooling systems. Okay, I only came across this story a couple of weeks ago. It's a fascinating story. So Tom Persky runs floppydisk.com. So he still distributes floppy disks. He manufactures, recycles, and distributes floppy disks, which is an industry I thought would have disappeared. But apparently there's a bunch of industries out there that depend on floppy disks, and he supplies them to companies. So the long tail of technology is quite interesting, but for most people there's changes moving a lot faster than that, right? So you may have heard of the phrase VUCA. So we're living in a world that's more volatile, more uncertain, more complex, and more ambiguous than before. So one of the things I talk about in relation to IRDG is that we help people de-risk their innovation and help them understand better to cope with the challenges created by this sort of volatile environment. So if you think about all the changes that are coming at us, right? So everything from privacy and security and governance standards. We now have a national AI strategy in Ireland. We have EU policies on AI. So in changing regulatory regimes. The US government introduced policies on AI today. We have huge amounts of specific technology trends that are occurring. So distributed finance, blockchain, and so on. So there's a huge amount of what I would call fear, uncertainty, and doubt around this area. There's a huge amount of fraud around distributed finance and so on. But the technology, underlying technology, feels a bit like a cockroach right now. It survived for a number of years. I'm not entirely sure where it's going, but it's certainly worth keeping an eye on. Digital transformation. So entire industries are being shifted and changed and radically remade through by being digitally transformed. The IDA, Enterprise Ireland, have it at the core of their strategies in terms of being prepared for the future. Robotic process automation, which I'd almost call a subset of digital transformation, whereby entire business processes are being digitized and being done essentially by computer algorithms, and being so essentially the human factor being taken out of something and being replaced by a set of algorithmic processes. The Metaverse. Everyone will have heard of Facebook renaming themselves Meta. And seeing this as the emerging trend, or seeing what they would like it to be the emerging trend. A friend of mine referred to Metaverse as the Metaverse, right? A little bit of wondering whether or not there's an awful lot of hype around this technology and where this technology is actually going. In some respects, it already exists, right? So you think about Pokemon Go, that's made billions of euros for Nintendo over a number of years. This is a Trinity spin-out company that's actually looking at how you can get kids to exercise using devices on phones. So elements of that metaverse exist, maybe not in the way the platform technology companies might like, but you can see how some of this technology is creeping in and evolving over time, and it'll be interesting to see where that technology goes. Development of AI and machine learning is absolutely fascinating for me. Many years ago, when I was an undergrad, I did my final year project on neural nets, and it's been interesting to me to watch that technology essentially disappear for decades and then re-emerge, and it's doing some phenomenal things in machine learning and vision, image recognition, and so on. This is an image I generated from a piece of text using an online program called Midjourney. So if you took 15-year-old me and you told that 15-year-old that I would generate science fiction computer art using a text to a computer, I would have said, wow, right? That would have blown my mind away, right? But I am able to do that at this point in time, right? So that's literally a text prompt. So there's lots of interesting things happening with AI. So AI is sneaking into small and medium-sized businesses of all sorts, into lots and lots of places. There's lots of hype. We are years away from self-driving cars. I would love self-driving cars. It would have been fabulous for me to work sitting in the back of my car while I was driving down here this evening. So I'm there the minute we've got self-driving cars. The reality is the technological challenges means that's years and years away in practice, right? But there are a huge amounts of AI sneaking in and being commercialized and will be important for every business in the future. The biggest change of our time, climate change, right? So it is going to be the biggest issue for the rest of our lives. It's going to be the biggest challenge we're going to be dealing with as businesses, as individuals, as a society. And everything that we're going to have to do is going to have to figure out how to manage in that environment. So, if you don't like change, somebody said you will hate irrelevance even worse, right? So any business has to be able to innovate, has to be able to change, has to be able to develop, not just to grow, but to actually survive and thrive in the existing environment. The reality is that anything that can be automated will be automated. So if you're doing things in a manual way, and they can be automated, if you don't automate them, somebody else will automate them. Some things are harder to automate than others. So 375 million on making pizza seems an awful lot of money to build a machine to make pizza. Obviously somebody thought there was a large opportunity in there, but it turns out that making pizza is a little harder than you thought. I was down in a company down in Galway a couple of weeks ago. It is full of machines like this in a manufacturing facility. It also employs 700 people. So the most advanced manufacturing sites in the world, some of them are in Ireland, and they actually employ both robots and people working together. So robots are actually enhancing the ability of people to do their jobs as much as they are replacing people in their jobs as well. But anything that can be automated, anything that's repetitive, robotic process automation or actual robots will replace that over time. So the best way for us to invent the future, the best way to predict the future, essentially is to create it ourselves, right? So there's no reason for us not to go out and not to create that future. So if you can see it down the bottom, this slide is left blank for you to fill in, right? So huge blank space. So what is that future you're going to imagine? What's the future you're actually going to create? Okay, somebody said writing is simple. You find a blank page and you sweat blood and you use the blood as ink and you write on that page. The reality is you don't have to start with a blank page, right? You have huge amount of your own resources and expertise. You're experts in the businesses that you're in. You have domain expertise. You may have technical expertise. Take that and build on that, right? Number of companies I worked with over the last number of years. So Buy Media, which was a traditional media buying company based down in Galway. They have brought in technology to automate large amounts of that media buying process. Done cross media, so you can buy online, you can buy radio, you can buy TV. So putting together essentially a platform for media buyers, right? So automating huge amounts of technology. A small, essentially traditional company based down in the west of Ireland using technology to leverage and grow, right? Excelsis are a power supply company based in Cork. They were bought by a large corporate, a large American corporate in the last 18 months. They make power supplies. So power supplies for computers like this, power supplies for heavy technology equipment that require particular current and voltage. They're now engaged in a disruptive technologies innovation fund project with a medtech company in Galway, where they're using their world-class expertise, and they're only one of 2 or 3 companies in the world that can actually do this, to figure out how to build a device to physically zap cancer with electricity, right? So you think about that. So from power supplies into cancer treatment. So that's taking a specific set of skills and expertise and applying it in a whole new domain. Intercom, I mentioned Storyful. When I was CTO at Storyful, we had a technology company called Contrast. They were a consultancy company, 4 lads who had this little side project they were working on 1 day a week. That side project they were working on became Intercom, which is a $1 billion plus valued company at this stage that employs over 1,000 people. So again, taking that technical expertise and taking an understanding of a specific domain and applying it in a specific area and using it to grow. AllSorter All sorts is a really interesting one. So somebody who was involved in hiring lots of people in an organisation, Declan Murphy, calling it, there has to be a better way of doing this. There has to be a way that we can do this with technology. So Declan essentially went to SFI and said, you know, can I get some help in building something? So SFI put him in touch with some of the research centres. So bootstrapped a business with some support from some government, and he's built a technology company now that helps sort CVs and helps eliminate bias in the hiring process. And they just raised over $1 million there in the last couple of months. So again, these are all Irish businesses. And what I'd say is we have an incredible environment here to support innovation. So we had 3 people from 3 different local enterprise offices stand up. So there's a huge amount of support available to companies through the local enterprise offices. Obviously, we're here in Merritts. The universities, obviously Trinity, UCD, Maynooth are all universities that are within easy access of anybody here. The state agencies, Enterprise Ireland, SFI, Sense Foundation Ireland, the revenue commissioners, so people are always giving out about the revenue commissioners taking money for them. When it comes to research and development, if you're doing innovative research, right, that passes a specific test, the revenue commissioners will give you back 25% of the money that you spend on that, right? So for every euro you spend, you're getting 25 cents back. Spend €1,000, get 250 euros back. Combine that, put that together with innovation grants from people like Enterprise Ireland, and potentially up to 40 or 50% of your innovation spend can be subsidised and can help you de-risk the cost of actually doing research and innovation. And again, a tangent they're talking about, and they're here this evening, I know they're going to talk shortly. So again, to help you give you some of those skills, and the skills to innovate are important as well. Because innovation is about culture and how you do things. So it's not necessarily about technology. Technology can be the outcome of innovation. At one level, that's a lie, right? So, okay, because culture itself is a form of technology. Skills and management are forms of technology. And by learning and by developing and building those skills, we can get better at innovating, and we can get better at building products and services for customers, get better and better. And that's, you know, we've seen that happen in our FDI industries, where we've built some of the best manufacturing companies in the world. A lot of those FDI companies are now doing their core research and development and engineering physically here in Ireland as well. We see it in the growth of Irish startups, particularly over the last number of years. So those skills and skills of management growing in those companies. Focus on yourself, focus on your specific needs, focus on your specific wants, because what works for one company won't necessarily work for another company. What works in one industry won't necessarily work in another industry. So be context specific in terms of how you approach things. So without the right company structure, you can't innovate. So I would say this about the team again. So think about the different skills and talent you require across your team to help you innovate and to help you grow and help you productize stuff. Because it's not just enough to invent stuff. You need to sell the stuff, and you need to make it more efficient, because you're going to have a lot of competition over time. So thinking differently requires different thinkers, requires different skills, requires different sets of development, and so on. And it requires collaboration. So I threw up that slide earlier with all the different levels of support that are available for everybody. I think that's important to recognise, is that there's a huge opportunity for collaboration in Ireland, right? You're 1 or 2 phone calls away from any individual in this country who can help you in your business, and people are only too willing to talk to you and support you, and there's a huge amount of direct and indirect supports that are actually out there. Right, I'm not sure if I've gone over time. I think that's about 20 minutes. So thank you for your time and attention. Hope you found that useful. And thank you to the Merits team.
Thanks, Dermot. Well done. Super. That's great. Thanks, Dermot, so much. Certainly a very thought-provoking and informative presentation. And I know you're staying around, so we might do some Q&A at the very end, if you like, and we'll roll it into that and just try and pull everything together at the back end. And I'm really interested in that S-curve. I'm sure a lot of people ended up back at the start of that S-curve and made it an 8 at some stage in the journey. But Be interested in hearing about how you experienced that at some stage. So without further ado, we'll just move on now. We're delighted to welcome Ken Finnegan, CEO of Tangent, and also Rosemary Denneher will also speak to give an overview of Tangent and outline the significance of this collaboration with local enterprise and to give you an overview of the programme. I think you heard from some of the team earlier on, just really delighted, the local enterprise are delighted to have this partnership with the team in Tangent. And I was talking to Ken earlier, I know they're exceptionally busy and doing a lot of really good stuff in Trinity and in Tangent itself. So look forward to hearing your presentation, Ken. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much. Oh, look, I'm going to give the same presentation. Let me just bring you to my presentation. So, Dermot, one thing that there was some really good news from Enterprise Ireland today. A new fund, pre-seed fund that was announced this morning, which is I guess music to everybody's ears. Kind of like that is kind of like new funding available. So before I kick off, I just want to ask everybody in the room. So Dermot was talking about kind of like people in the room who's probably innovating or looking to innovation their organisations. I can see the colours affecting us as well. Just hands up, who here is in employment and looking to be innovative within their organisation? Just to understand, yeah? All right, it's a good 50%. Who's here kind of like because they might have an idea, are entrepreneurial themselves, kind of like want to take something and do it for themselves? Okay, and who's here because they just have a general interest in innovation and entrepreneurship and kind of like see what's going to happen, yeah? All right, a few. All right, well, the good news is that there's something here for everybody. This program that we're going to talk about this evening will hopefully inspire, but provide not just the skills and tools that Dermot was talking about. You need to have the skills and tools within your organisation, but the confidence as well. And I think one thing that we see is like there's lots of ideas out there, and I know even when I was younger, kind of like it's like, where do you go with your ideas? So this is kind of like we talk about Tangent as where the journey of an idea begins, right? So let's begin. There's our colleague Gavin eating a sandwich. So Tangent's purpose, it's to harness the potential of Ireland's aspiring innovators and entrepreneurs and to mitigate the economic and social risks, thus securing our country's future. I'm ex-IDA. I had the privilege to work in IDA for about 5 years as the chief technologist there. So I've gone from working with some of the biggest companies in the world and attracting them to Ireland based on our technological capability here in Ireland to working with some of the I won't even say smallest ideas, but like seeds of an idea. And these are all transferable conversations and transferable skills. Bank of Ireland has been our partner for the past 5 years and supporter, so it's where new beginnings happen. Just a little bit about kind of, I'm not going to speak too much about this because Dermot, I think you covered off really well in terms of why innovation is needed, why an entrepreneurial mindset is critical, kind of like for your own organisation, but also if you work in a larger organisation, the entrepreneurial mindset as well. The landscape and the world is changing. And even kind of like from a local perspective, like what are the local challenges that you're seeing? There's local opportunities, etc. I know driving down here this evening, if I had an opportunity not to have to deal with traffic, that would have been a solution to, or an opportunity to come up with a business idea as well. I won't get into too much of this, but there are kind of like heavy dependency on a small amount of corporate taxes for Ireland. When I worked in IDA, like it's really great what IDA has achieved for the country, but I think something like six companies pay, or 10 companies pay or contribute to 60% of the corporate tax rate in the country. So there's a massive dependency on large companies for a corporate tax rate. So some interesting kind of like facts about Trinity. We are the #1 university in Europe for producing student entrepreneurs as well. So, and we've achieved that for 7 years in a row. We'll find out in a couple of months if we get 8 years in a row. So, but actually, this accolade is the reason why Tangent exists. So the previous provost of the university wanted to manifest that in kind of like a demonstration that Trinity takes innovation and entrepreneurship seriously. So it's a great accolade to have for us. Impact in numbers. So this isn't our first time leaving Dublin, but actually it's the first time that Trinity has left Dublin. So Tangent has taken Trinity out of Dublin, and we've been to 10 locations around the country so far. This year we're here in Kildare, and we're also down in Kilkenny. We'll be running a programme in creative and cultural entrepreneurship in Kilkenny. The reason why we kind of left Dublin originally, well, we were partnered with the Bank of Ireland. The bankers had said, we've got some space available in the main cities. How about you run some of your innovation and entrepreneurial programs there? We did that. Unfortunately, they were university towns, so Limerick, Galway, Cork, the banks there weren't so keen on kind of like supporting us. It's like, why is Trinity coming to Limerick when we've UL? Why are you coming to Cork? Actually, we didn't run the program in Cork that year. So then in 2019, there was a report published by a competitor university, I won't mention names, that had identified 10 locations around Ireland where automation was going to disrupt jobs and disrupt the economy and create loss in jobs. So we've been around the country. We've been to Cavan, Longford, Tipperary, Wexford, numerous different places, and now we're in Kildare. So this isn't our first time coming out of Dublin, but it is Trinity's first time coming out of Dublin. So we're very proud of that fact. We are the Innovation and Entrepreneurial Hub. We are kind of like not just delivering programs in innovation and entrepreneurship, but we are expected to be innovative and entrepreneurial in Trinity as well. So that's a little bit about our regional programs. I won't go through all the details, but I think this is an interesting number. And this is just student startups. So we've invested equity-free just over 1 million into student startups. And those student startups have raised over 101 million euros over the past 10 years. So it's kind of like an X100 return on investment. Again, we don't take equity in the companies, but we're very proud, I guess, of our student startups. We also run a number of different accelerators, and I saw one of our startups got an investment of 40 million this morning as well. Hexafly, it's another Meath-based company as well. Just impact from a Tangent perspective. We're very proud. This is one of 7 postgraduate programs that we run, so we've got multiple programs in different areas as well. Ironically, I've put Tangent at the centre of our universe, but I guess Tangent is, well, characteristics of ourselves. We are self-financing in Trinity, so we don't get money from our funding from Trinity at all. So we are a startup within a 430-year-old institution, which sometimes can be like tar, but we are, as my colleague in the audience, Jill, has said, we're a small team with big impact. And I'll show you, or you've seen some of the impact, but we are, we do have to behave like a startup ourselves. Creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship is core to what we do. This idea of creating a space where it's safe to have ideas and take those ideas and turn them into impact. When you turn them into impact, that's innovation, and the entrepreneur is the driver of those ideas, if you want. The nice thing about our programs as well, they're multidisciplined, so people come in from different areas, so you're kind of sharing ideas, but you're finding inspiration, if you want, from students from other backgrounds and disciplines as well. We're split up into, we've 3 different units or streams in Tangent. So we've engagement, and engagement is all about inspiring and exciting. And you're going to hear from some startups today, and hopefully you'll be inspired and excited to kind of like begin your own journey. Education, so this is what we're speaking about tonight, is an education program or postgraduate certificate. And incubate and accelerate. So this is a nice differentiator for us. So we do, if you participate in this program, you're technically a student of Trinity. And we run multiple accelerators, a student accelerator and a few in climate, a few in health, and some other areas. So if you have an idea, you're able to participate in our accelerators as well, get some funding and the expertise there. So I'm going to let somebody else do a bit of talking about Tangent for a second. So hopefully you can hear this.
This course has afforded me huge opportunities to equip me with tools that I previously would never have had experience of in my theatre profession.
The course provided for me a great opportunity to take a step back and to look at my practice in a different light.
Interacting with other like-minded students in Northern Europe and across Ireland, all of this was feeding into my ability to learn a little bit more about entrepreneurial lifestyles and how to build a business.
Graduating from the course has given me the confidence I need to really think innovatively in my professional life now. It helped me land a great job at a fast-growing Irish fintech startup.
It's really helped me to develop my skills, to drive change, and it's an area that has huge potential in the healthcare system in Ireland.
So just some, I guess, testimonials from some of our students. As you can see, they come from different backgrounds, but it is about gaining the skills, but also the confidence to take that idea and turn it into impact. Just some of the numbers from ourselves. We just got our final numbers from this past academic year in, and it's been, as you can see, a kind of like a steady trajectory in terms of participants on our programme. We've exceeded the 5,000 mark as of the end of last week. So it just demonstrates an appetite kind of like for innovation and entrepreneurial skills in Ireland. There is a great support network out there that Dermot has shown. We are kind of like part of that network, but you can see that there's a big desire for these type of courses. As I mentioned, our differentiator, like if you participate in a program in any school in Trinity, you'll get a degree or you'll get a master's, etc. One of the things that's nice from a Tangent perspective is that if you have an idea for a startup, we can provide those supports. We've got European funding, we've got funding from different sources where we can help startups. So you can see over the years, 2013-14 was when we ran our first student accelerator. And then over the past 5 years, we've scaled up a lot of our different activities. So we've still have the student-focused activities, but we've got European funding, private funding, and we're about to launch Open Incubator, which is a platform that if students have an idea, learners, and when I say students, I'm talking about people between the ages of 17 and 70, by the way. So anybody that participates on our course is a student, is a learner. But we've just developed a new platform that students can participate on and go at their own pace in terms of setting up their own journeys or setting up their own companies as well. 229 startups supported since 2013. Some of those startups you might recognize their logos here. Artematics was acquired for 60 million. It's one of the big successful stories. But Food Cloud has been in the news a lot lately. So Isolt, the founder of Food Cloud, really, really amazing social enterprise. Distributing one meal every 2 seconds to people in need here in Ireland, the UK, Australia, and across Europe as well. TouchTech Payments, a fintech company acquired by Stripe not too long ago. Denalto, an IoT company. And I'm going to finish up with, I guess, when we talk about entrepreneurship and being innovative, a lot of people will think about kind of like the commercial organization, the company that has some type of AI that'll make them a lot of money or shareholders a lot of money, etc. We're not just focused on the commercial companies as well, and I'm just going to play a video from one of our students who participated in this program down in Waterford, and it is a social enterprise. Just to give you, again, a sense of, it's the journey of an idea, whatever that idea might be, whether it's a commercial one, social one, cultural one, but I'll let Claire speak to the program.
Hi, I'm Claire Cullen. I'm co-founder of AJ Card Designs. We're the only business in Ireland that offer items providing acknowledgement, support and education around pregnancy and baby loss. Last year, I studied the Postgraduate Certificate in Creative Thinking, Innovation and Entrepreneurship through Tangent at Trinity College. I live in Waterford City and I have 3 small kids at home. And the idea of attending Trinity College at any level was unthinkable up until last year. However, when I lost my job in the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, I knew I wanted to use that time as an opportunity to launch this business idea, but I didn't know where to start. And thanks to Tangent, I know not just where to start, but where to aim, what to expect, what obstacles I will meet along the way, how to overcome them, how to pitch myself and my business and my ideas. I had so much practical knowledge, but also the mindset that I developed over the course was just incredible. I launched my business before the course had even finished, and it has gone from strength to strength. I don't have enough good things to describe the experience of Tangent. But I would like to say thank you, not just to all the staff there, but also to Bank of Ireland for making Tangent possible.
That was a little promotional video we had done for Bank of Ireland to convince them to reinvest in it. So that last part maybe we should cut out. But look, just to summarise, if you have an idea, if you want to have an idea for your own enterprise, if you have an idea and want to be able to articulate that idea within your own organisation and to get buy-in, to get the tools and skill set needed for that, this is the programme for you. And even if you just are like interested, really interesting people in the room. It's very much applied. Rosemary's going to go through a lot of the details of the programme. But yeah, we'd welcome you to apply, and hopefully we'll see many of you on the course when it begins. Thank you.
Yep, for sure. Thank you. I think I've got the easy job now talking about the course after all that. I think Claire has done a lot of this between Dermot, Ken and the students, and then Claire, I think a lot of my work maybe has been done for me. So, yes, it does look different with the colours, all right. I didn't recognise my own slides, sorry. So lovely to be here, thank you, and thanks to the Leos and Merits for having us here. As I said, I'm very excited to be talking about the course. You'll hear as I go along, I'm very passionate about our courses. I'm currently doing a course at the moment in Tangent. We also coincidentally, sorry Pat, we have a fellow student who just happened to be here tonight as well. So hopefully you'll confirm and not deny anything that I'm going to say about our courses. I'm very happy to talk to anybody afterwards. I'll say that at the outset because I'm not sure we'll get through all the detail, but I'll get through as much as I can, like a broad overview, let's say, of the course and the advantages. And then there's a couple of my colleagues, Jill and Hazel, are in the room. Very happy to talk more about the content or more about the application process or the funding or how it all hangs together. So if anything doesn't make sense, I mean, I think Paul, we may have time for a couple of questions after, but very happy then to...
Yeah, so we're going to take 10 here just to go through this, and then afterwards we'll have questions, and obviously there'll be a circulation to people of content as well after this. So.
Perfect. Yeah. And I suppose just to say at the outset, it's a Trinity accredited course, so you will be a fully fledged student and hopefully graduate of Trinity at the end. And it's a Springboard funded course, both of which we'll talk about now as I go through. So it's a whistle-stop tour of the course. And what I've done is I've taken the top 10, I think it's 10, hope it's 10. So it's my top 10 list of questions that we get asked on the course. How about that? And I'm going to answer them as quickly and as comprehensively as I can. But honestly, if there's any more, then very, very happy to take those and help you through them. So it's the Postgraduate Certificate in Innovation and Enterprise Development. So what is the course? If I use some terminology or acronyms that you're not sure of, please do stop me then and ask. I may assume a level of knowledge here that people don't have. So it's, as I said, it's a Trinity accredited, it's level 9 on the National Framework of Qualifications. It's a special purpose award of 30 credits. So it's 3 modules. I'm going to talk about what they are and what they entail in a moment. So 30 credits, which you may see written as ECTS, which is the European, so it's the value weighting, if you like, of credits attached to any module. So it's 3 10-credit modules. So what will you learn? Very important. So the first module is innovation and creativity. And as one of our lecturers likes to put this, Jill, I think it's getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I'm not going to lie and say that you won't be taken out of your comfort zone in innovation and creativity. So as I said, I'm currently doing one of our courses, and even straight away, that's the case. So it's an interesting module. It's also one you'll do in person, and we'll go through, I suppose, the schedule and where you'll be in a moment. But this is one you will do in person, so you'll really get to know your fellow classmates. That's for sure. So, as I said, we won't have time to go through everything that you'll cover, and we can certainly go into it in more detail. But if I was to maybe throw some words at you here in terms of the syllabus, it would be things like creativity, innovation, ideation, brainstorming, critical thinking, creative collaboration. You'll be working very closely with teams within your module groups and teams. And throughout the course then we'll be working as well on real world problems, on real companies. And when we're looking at the regional courses, we, insofar as possible, do that with local, companies. So we'll get you, to work on a challenge that's a real challenge in a real company. And you'll be brainstorming, how you might go about that. The second module is opportunity recognition, generation and communication. That sounds like a lot, and there is probably a lot in this module. Well, module 2 and 3. So what does this involve? So I guess it's about recognizing and being able to communicate, your ideas, the opportunities, whether it's an improved solution. Dermot was talking earlier about, different innovations within companies. Like, it doesn't have to be, a new startup idea, but it might be just something like a new product, a new service, a new way of doing things, being innovative, either entrepreneurial thinking or entrepreneurial within your company. But I suppose how do we recognize that? But equally, how do we communicate it? So we put an emphasis here on effective communication and storytelling, I guess. How do you get your value proposition, to the right stakeholders? And I don't think you talked a lot there about the value, creating value and that value proposition. And then the last one in enterprise development is really, I suppose, about taking that idea from development through to implementation. So things like market analysis, maybe customer insights. It's really about leading and scaling, that opportunity or that venture, whatever it is you're working on. As I said, a very brief overview, and happy to go into more detail on any of those. So who is it for? So I'm going to say everybody. So I think Ken mentioned, and you like to say, our student ranges from like 17 to 70, and we've probably had people on both ends of that, on some of our courses. But I think regardless of age or stage or industry or sector, whether you're working in a multinational, the corporate, not-for-profit, whether you're self-employed, want to be self-employed, unemployed, maybe want to be unemployed, trying to change, trying to move within your company, we would say that this is for you. And again, we can talk to you about, how, I suppose, you may benefit from, what you might bring to the course and how you might benefit from the course, depending on where you're coming from. Do I need to have a business idea? So the short answer is no. I mean, you do need to come with ideas, and if you don't come with ideas, you'll definitely leave with ideas. I think Ken took just a quick snapshot of the room there. So some people are coming with an idea or think they may have an idea. Some people are in an organisation and they may just have an idea for something that they might do differently. So you don't need a startup idea, but we would ask you to come, I guess, with an open mind. And again, something that was mentioned earlier, curiosity. So we'd ask you to be curious and ask lots of questions. And as I said, we have people coming that have a very set business idea and maybe leave with something completely different, recognising that that business idea maybe wasn't going to be viable or sustainable for whatever reason. So again, just a great question, and it's one of the ones we often get asked. When is it on? So I do have a printout here. I'll go through it briefly, but if I talk to me afterwards and we can do a snapshot of it. I just have a little printout of the draft schedule. It's also up on the website, so Tangent, and I'll put the details up at the end. All of the details of what we're talking about is up on the website. But essentially, the module will run Monday and Tuesday evenings, so it is evenings. It starts mid-January. The course will finish in mid-June. As I said, there's 3 modules. Module 1 is in person, so that will be run here in Merits. And then modules 2 and 3 you'll do online. So you'll be with the same cohort, same group, but we'll be running it online. So module 1 runs from mid-January to the end of February. And then the course finishes mid-June, and there's obviously breaks in there in between modules and Easter and bank holidays and different as well. As I said, I do have this, and everyone's welcome to scan that so you can go home with it. It's draft schedule, but we wouldn't envisage it changing hugely. Great question, and it's one we get asked all along. So down where, like, what's in it for me, or what do I have to do? How is it assessed? So I think this may be a double-edged sword for some people. So there's no exams. We put that out there first of all. That doesn't mean I see everybody smiling. Doesn't mean there's no work. It's continuous assessment. So it's assessed right from the start and right throughout the modules, continuous assessment. And that's a mixture of group work, individual work, project writing, presentations, pitching, and reflective practice. And that's throughout all the modules. Happy to go into more detail on that if anybody wants, if I haven't scared anybody off there. Are there entry requirements? Yes, in short. So we started off by saying it was a level 9 program. So the minimum entry requirements, or if we say if you're a standard application, that's for people who are coming, who are presenting with a level 8 qualification on the national framework. So what does that look like? What does that mean? So for most people, that's an honours degree, but it's not necessarily. So it could be something like a higher diploma. Or if you have a professional qualification, for example, like the accountancy bodies, they're actually not on the framework at level 8, but they're aligned at level 8. So it's an equivalent qualification. So the standard entry requirements, the academic, if we'll call them that for now, entry requirements, is a level 8 qualification or equivalent. And the other equivalent that could be is if, for example, you'd obtained your qualification in a different country. So we have a way, and I can show you how to do it, and I can show you the system we use in terms of gaining, I suppose, or measuring the equivalency of that to the national framework here in Ireland and see what level it sits at, whether it's a level 7 or a level 8. The next question we get asked a lot, and some people will know this and some people won't. You might hear the term RPL. What is it? It's recognition of prior learning. And the reason I've just put it in here is because it's an entry route for people who don't have that level 8 qualification. So they're what we would class as non-standard application. So Trinity has a recognition of prior learning policy under which people can apply. And basically what it entails is it's us, we review the application and assess it in terms of, do you meet the minimum entry requirements to do the course? And I suppose from our point of view, we're trying to make sure that people, I suppose, will benefit from, be able to contribute to the course, but at the end of the day, succeed on the course. So it's our way, I guess, of aligning the learning outcomes to make sure that, that people do meet the minimum entry requirements and are able to participate and succeed on the course. And I just say for anybody who's not, well, who either doesn't have a level 8 or doesn't know, isn't sure, the best advice I can say is just maybe come and talk to us, because we'll be able to gauge what you have and also be able to advise you the best way to present and evidence that in your application. So for anybody who falls out of what we might class as a standard applicant, please come and talk to me either at the end of this or a phone call and an email away after that, if that makes sense. Am I eligible for Springboard funding? So I actually can't answer this, so this one is back over to you. So there's a number of criteria that you do need to fulfill in order to be eligible for the funding for the course. My colleagues have printed a little cheat sheet. So the link to the eligibility criteria is there. But at a very high level, you need to be resident in the Republic of Ireland, which I'm assuming most of us are, but maybe not. You do need to have lived and worked in Ireland or the UK or EU for 3 out of the last 5 years, and you need to have a PPS number. So providing you meet those criteria, I mean, there's some other technicalities, but most people will be eligible under that. If you go on to springboardcourses.ie, and I'm going to throw up the link to the website now in a second, there's 2 big buttons. One is courses and the other is am I eligible? And if you click that button, there's a little tick box and you come down the criteria. And actually before you submit your application, it's one of the very first things you'll do. So you'll say, do I have a PPS number? Yes. Have I worked here for 3, have I been living here? Have I worked in the EU for 3 of the last 5 years? So it'll actually do the prompts for you. So I think that's important, maybe just at the outset to check. And again, if you're not sure or you have questions on it or you need a little bit of a steer, please come and talk to us, because I suppose we just deal with so many at this stage, we'll be able to probably tell you. But it is the applicant's responsibility to make sure that you're eligible for funding. And it's better to do it at the outset, before you apply to the course, and then maybe find out. And we do have those cases, as well, where then people just aren't eligible and at the end. So how much does it cost? So it's 90% subsidised for those in employment or self-employment. So that's €300 then is what the applicant pays. For anybody who's unemployed, who's returning to employment, or who qualifies under a DSP payment, it's actually 100% subsidised. So there's no course fees. How do I apply? So you need to apply on Springboard Courses. So you don't apply through us in Trinity per se. So you go on to Springboard Courses, and as I said, there's two big buttons, you can't miss them, two big colouredy buttons. One is the courses and one is am I eligible. So if you go in there, and the links to all the courses are also, you can link to them directly from the Tangent website. So you go onto the Springboard portal and you upload, and what you need to upload to apply is your CV, a personal statement, which is about 500 words of why you might want to do the course. And that's important because it gives us a good sense of, what you're thinking, what your ambitions maybe for the course is and what you might bring to the course. You need to upload your transcript of results. So for those people who do have a level 8 or whatever your highest level of qualification is, it could be a level 7 or a level 6, you upload that as well. And you also need 2 references. So when you go on to Springboard Courses, all of those have a little description, and we've given really clear instructions, I hope, as to what's needed. So it'll tell you what that personal statement should look like, what it should include, how long it needs to be. So even if you're not ready to apply yet, if you go on to Springboard Courses and have a look, you'll be able to get a feel for what you need. My advice here is to people, just apply as early as possible. So it does take a little bit of time to gather. Some of that you'll have to possibly get from a third party, certainly your references you will. But a lot of people as well fall down where they're looking for their transcript. And if it's maybe some time since you've been in study, the institute may not just have it, they may have to go and look for it, or it may be archived or whatever, and a lot of people just don't have that documentation. So we do as well see people running out of time, like who maybe start to apply the day before or the day of the closing date. And in which case then, it's possibly too late to get that information. So I would say, the earlier you can apply, the better. That's across the board, but it's equally important for the RPL candidates, because if you think about it, if you apply now or soon, we have a chance to look at your application, and if there's something missing or something not right or something we feel could be better, we'll then have the opportunity to get back to you and be able to say, you might benefit from this. If the application comes in on the last, I'm going to say week, but certainly in the last couple of days, we just won't be in a position to do that. And certainly if the course is oversubscribed, which a lot of our courses tend to be, so just with the volume of applicants that come in, the volume of applications, we may not have that chance. So to give yourself the best chance, if you are thinking of applying, I would say to apply as early as you can. We offer the places on an ongoing basis, so you'll know very quickly whether you've been awarded a place or not, which is great as well, because then you can start making plans around it. And the closing date is the 8th of November, but a lot of our courses will close before that. So if we have more applicants than places, the course can close before that. So again, I would say, it's a guideline date, but really just, apply as soon as you can. It's some of the best advice I can give. Where do I find more info? Sorry, it's down here and I'm not sure that you all can see it, but again, it's springboardcourses.ie or the TCD website and onto Tangent, and all of the courses that we're offering, including this one, is there, and then all of the links to things like the timetables, FAQs, how do I apply, when is it on, how is it assessed, all of those that we've just talked about is there. And who do you contact? So springboard.ie at tcd.ie, so you can, if anyone wants to take a picture of that, that'll get you directly to myself or Jane. And there's the phone number, so depending on what day of the week it is or time of the day, you'll get one of us on the other end of that phone number. And we're happy to answer any questions, that you have about applying, or is the course for you, or the funding, the eligibility, anything like that. So that's it. I'm happy to take any questions that anybody may have. Yes?
The courses you are subscribed, how do you determine who gets the place, and what's the process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we have 64 places on this particular course. So they will be split between, we're going to run it in Dublin and here. So depending on, who applies, the numbers that applies for each. So the applicants are assessed on a number of criteria based on, whether they're an RPL applicant, because they go through a slightly different process, or a standard applicant based on the quality of their application, and then they're offered on a rolling basis. So obviously the earlier they come in, you have a better chance of being offered, because towards the end the places may be full.
Very good. I'm just conscious of our panel discussion, guys, so I'm going to move on to that. You are staying around anyway, Rosemary, so there's opportunity for questions. There's also going to be a circular post-it for everyone that registered with all the information, that a lot of the information and more in terms of registration, if you like. But the key takeout I got there is, if you're planning to do this course, register as soon as possible.
Great, so I've done my job. And do come, I suppose the second or maybe the first takeaway is, like, do talk to us if you are thinking of doing the course. So wherever, as I said, whatever stage or age you're at or whatever idea you have, if you come and talk to us, we can let you know if the course is right for you. But equally then, if you have a query around how to apply or should I apply or the funding eligibility, talk to us. So yeah, maybe just talk to us. We'd be happy to hear from you.
There's numerous colleagues in the audience as well. If Hazel, Anya and Jill want to put up your hands, we're going to be here later on after the event. So.
And sorry, I should say that so Jill, who is the brains behind the course, would be delighted to talk to somebody about the actual course, the content and the assessments. And then any of the rest of us, very happy to chat about anything to do with registrations or that. So yes, come and find us.
Very good. Thanks, Rosemary. Thanks very much. And thanks also to Ken. Thank you both. I think, look, ultimately tonight is about launching this course, if you like, in conjunction with Local Enterprise and with Tangent. So it's great to get that level of detail around it, which is really important. I know that's the primary reason a lot of people are here. So we're just going to learn now from our panel. I'm going to invite the speakers and thank you all for your contributions to swap seats, if you like, with our panel who are going to join us now. So just take a little switch around and so have our panel discussion, and we're just going to learn from some of the experience of our panel members in terms of their journey and innovation journey. So thank you very much. So we've three members joined us. Folks, you're very welcome. So Robert Murphy from Grant Thornton, who you met earlier on. We also have John O'Neill on the right-hand side here from Hub 360, and Barry Finnegan from LV Logics. So you're all very welcome, folks. Thanks very much. You're in the hot seat, but time is moving on, so you should be all right in terms of questions. So I might maybe just start with yourself, John, if I may. You might just give an overview of your organisation and what you're at, I suppose, where you are on that S curve, if you like, and how you've got there and what your experience has been to date.
Okay. That's it. My name's John O'Neill, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hub 360. And Hub 360 is basically, we've developed a suite of smart applications that we give to manufacturing companies that helps them with the supply chain of their product. If they're using their own fleet to deliver the product, or using a 3PL or a 2PL to deliver that product for them. So we basically manage and build applications that will group the orders, load the trucks, give to the forklift driver to pick the right product from the right bin location, put them on the right position of the trailer of the truck, send it to the driver app, move on to the delivery part of it. We also integrate most recently with, for our Brexit application, we're integrating directly with Ross and HMRC in the UK. And we basically take it from the point of creating the sales order right through to the delivery of the product. That's what Hub 360 does in a small nutshell. I hope I haven't bored you too much with that.
Pretty good. And same questions yourself, John. You might just give us an overview of your business, please. Yeah, and where you're at.
Yeah, Level Logics is the name of our business. We principally developed a sensor that monitors silos. So in silos, you can have animal feed, cement, wood pellets, sugar, salt. If you look around, something was in a silo at some stage. So our sensor is a unique sensor we developed. It has a dust identification mechanism which identifies it's dusted up, and then it actually self-cleans. So there's a key innovative 3D printed head on it that we developed. So the applications, obviously, the key application we would have across Europe. We've about 450 sensors in 12 countries now at this stage. But the key application and the core market obviously is farming and agriculture, where animal feed is stored in silos. But we're making better inroads also into aggregates, into cement, into salt minerals, and particular biomass and wood pellets, given the current environment as well. So the business itself is about taking trucks off the road. It's actually a key element in sustainability. Other businesses such as LPG and oil, the 6.5 million oil tanks in Europe have 40% of those tanks are monitored. of the 1.7 million silos, there's 0.003% monitored. So it's a really blue ocean market. It's very exciting, and myself and my wife have sort of since 2018 we've been building it up, you know.
Very good. Yeah, yeah. So you're both similar in terms of duration on your journeys from innovation point of view, if you like, in terms of time periods. And this is something that I really challenge with myself in our business and a lot of the clients that we work with. But how do you pencil in innovation thinking time into your business in terms of what you're doing? How does it operate on a day-to-day basis? How do you make that happen?
I suppose for us is, and I kind of looking in hindsight, it's great because I wish I kind of maybe did some more research at the start and maybe found tangent and maybe it kind of helped us back then. But what we did was we kind of put all our effort into developing a product. And I thought the hardest part of the whole process is to build the product and then sure it'll sell itself almost. But it's not the case at all. The easiest part now for us was actually to fulfill and build out that product. The innovation part of it is that we are always looking at how to enhance the product to give the value back to the customer. So for example, our biggest customer is 6 companies made up of under one umbrella. They turn over about €1 billion a year. Hub 360 manages every single movement of their product into Ireland, between Ireland and the UK. They, from using our product, independently verified by PwC, their own auditors, that Hub 360 has reduced their CO2 emissions by 50%. And that is huge. So like Barry was saying, we're all about taking off, almost like a byproduct of the system, is that we're now taking trucks not just off the road, but we're actually utilising the space on the truck, putting the weight ratios across the axles differently, and it's all done through technology. We're introducing AI as well, machine learning of how loads are built out. So it's really exciting stuff for us.
Very good, very good. And yourself, Barry, because I'm an accountant by trade, if you like, so I review the accounts and it's in the diary at the 5th day of the month, you know what I mean? I pencil it in, but are you just innovating all day long, or, is that, for all the other aspects of your business that you're trying to do, to create that time to be able to innovate? How you set yourselves up to do that, and I think you were referring to it earlier on, Dermot, in terms of how you structured your organisation to be really innovative in what you do, because someone has to work on the day-to-day and the efficiencies and so on. How do you manage that?
You sort of apply it to different sectors. Innovation obviously just isn't a product or technology. It's about sales. How do you innovate in sales? How do you innovate in trade shows? How do you make as little, this much go a long way? So there's in every department, if you like, in the business. So the answer is when the product innovation was over, we moved that innovation into the next department, which was selling the thing. So how do we do this? How do we tell every miller in the world with these 7.5 million silos that what this does? So therein lies the next challenge, and innovation is the key thing there. So how do you sell it? And we've learned, for instance, at the Ploughing Championships last week, 2 weeks ago, that and it never stops. This never stops. It never stops. You never stop learning. So hence the curiosity, hence turning. It is an S curve, but it could be very soon an S bend if you do the wrong thing. But you're trying to keep the S curve going that way, because S's do the other thing sometimes. So, but we've learned to pull the product through the mills, so via the farmer, via the end users. That's working. That worked by just telling your story so many times, and something works. So, and it does. You go back to process, and you go back to production. You go back to transport. So every day is innovation, but it's in a different department most days, depending on where you're at and what you're doing. So it never ends, but where it's applied changes. I think is the best way of explaining the answer.
It's constant, yeah. And I know you're both clients of the local enterprises in your respective geographies, if you like. What have been the big supports that you've got for people, I suppose, that are tied into Enterprise Ireland and local enterprise? What's been the biggest contributors to your success to date?
I suppose for us, we were. I remember last November, myself and my business partner Denise were stuck in a small box office in Longmell Road there in Dublin, and we're banging our heads against the wall, didn't know where to go. The environment we were in that office space just didn't suit us. So we were lucky enough to, I think we're one of the first clients to come in here to the Merits building, where the building kind of allowed us to kind of to maybe grow and maybe explore other options, talk to people that's in the corridor, what they're doing, what we're doing wrong, what they're doing better, and kind of meeting those people. So I think for us, it was kind of getting the right environment so we could maybe expand ourselves a little bit, and then surround ourselves with key people. And, it's handy for us, like if we need something from Leo just pop downstairs, we talk to one of the guys there and we get it sorted out. So surrounding us in the right environment with the right people around us has been pretty good. And the other thing I would say on that is that we have, just recently we've hired another person in the group, in the team, and he brings a different perspective and a different skill set to what myself and Denise had. We were so stuck in the weeds with the product, but now we have a new guy on board, Kieran. He has brought a different perspective in the business. He's more setting up the strategy, he's doing that, and kind of freeing us up to do other stuff, including sales and develop the product on. So that's what we're up to.
Very good. I think it turns out what you were saying, Dermot, earlier on, it's kind of, you're only a step away from help, if you just ask. So it's the supports are out there for you.
Yeah, and I think one of those slides Dermot had was the 3 boxes, and it kind of ties into your last question about, where do you fit, where do you break up the team? Well, our team is quite small. Like we have 9 in total now, but we find ourselves, we're doing everything. Like we're doing innovation, the sales, innovation, the product. We're just doing little pieces of everything. So I suppose until we reach to a certain threshold that we have a bigger team, that maybe we could kind of silo that out to different kind of responsibilities. But at the moment, I think it's we're all doing everything, and that mixture kind of brings it together as well, I think.
Very good. Yeah. Can I ask yourself there, Barry, just maybe 2018 you mentioned, and obviously COVID in the middle of all that, and now 22, and obviously you've had great success and you're making a lot of inroads, but what would you tell yourself now, that you didn't know 4 years ago, if you like? What was the big learnings for you there in that journey?
I guess those 3 key points, what the Tangent could deliver were even the structure and how they were presented there, and understanding that every discipline in developing a small business is exactly that. It's just a process, because you will get lost down the rabbit hole if you're too overly focused in one area. You'll crash the bus very quickly. And what we would have missed out on due to COVID a lot of the time, but maybe due to our own overzealous focus in particular areas, is to approach it as a theoretical thing, if you can at all. So getting the help of Tangent and the likes of them are very good. They give you a basis to approach it theoretically correctly and understand that it's a marathon, not a sprint. That's a key thing. There is a science to this, I guess. Doesn't feel like it sometimes. It feels like you're, so to take yourself out of that jungle that is the real commercial world and so on. But the Leos offered a huge support at the time, and it was their confidence in us actually that gave us the best boost, more than the actual fiscal returns. To some degree, it was them asking us questions, us giving the truthful answer, and they going, that's not ideal, is it? So we'll have to improve. But even just that sounding board as well was really important. At the stage we were at, we've 6 employees now. And they were very keen for us to build on that and very willing to help. So that help in development of you have to become commercial really quickly. You have to really focus on sales and so on. However, when you're talking to these people, that panic is off you, so they know that this takes a long time. So they give you that. They take the panic away a lot of the time, by virtue of adding that piece to it, where they know that the road is long, and so on. So they brought a lot of calm to what can be a tricky journey. Yeah.
Roller coaster. Yeah. Very good. Just going to bring you in there, Robert, just obviously from your experience in Grant Thornton. I know there was a budget last week, and I know about some people in the room, but I haven't even had a chance to study it. So if you take the whole R&D landscape there what opportunities are available for companies that are already investing money, and what was new in the budget, if you like, that came out that should be good news for people in this room that are going to develop an idea or develop a business.
Yeah, so I suppose we're coming at it from a very different angle. I suppose we're supporting a lot of businesses in looking at whether they can make the claim and what's eligible. I suppose, and the R&D credit was mentioned already. It's quite a valuable relief, so you're getting €1 back for every €4 you spend. And there's two elements to it. One is, the first part is probably the science test. So the type of activity that the business carries on, it has to be certain types of research or applied science. There has to be a certain kind of methodical research and development activity behind it or underpinning what the activity of the business is doing. And the second part then is the accounting test. So looking at what the business is spending in terms of its costs. Things like salaries, overheads, materials, etc., that are used for the R&D activity. And I suppose the key tips or pointers, I suppose, around that particular credit, if you're thinking of claiming it, is having a process in place from the very start, documenting the type of research you're undertaking, the type of expenditure you're incurring. Because if you do go and make a claim, one of the most important things you can have is the documentation and support around what you've done and what you've spent, and to verify that claim. And there are some, I suppose, concessions around it in terms of if you're already qualifying for certain types of IDA or EI grants for R&D, those type of grants kind of tick the science test box from revenues perspective, so that makes the claim a bit easier. Like in terms of practical tips or pitfalls, I suppose, that people come up against, you've only 12 months to make a claim from the end of the period you make the expenditure in. So there is a time limit there to make a claim. If you don't meet the time limit, the claim's lost, which is not helpful. Tracking and monitoring the expenditures I mentioned, having the documentation in place, critical. And the other point about, I suppose, research and development spend is outsourcing is outsourcing R&D costs to either a third level institution or another party. There's a restriction in what you can claim there. It's about 15% of up to the value of your overall claim, or €100,000. So it's never good to outsource it fully, because you're not going to get the benefit of the relief maybe as if you've done some of the R&D in-house. So that's just one of the key points. I think in terms of the budget, there was probably some helpful announcements last week. There wasn't a whole lot in terms of probably encouraging R&D spend, but there's going to be a change in mechanism. Typically, when you got the R&D refund or credit, you were allowed to offset against corporation tax, and then there was a refund by instalments over a number of years. What they're going to do now is there's going to be an ability to offset against other taxes, so VAT and payroll, and then you're also going to have an ability to call on a refund in year one up to €25,000. So that will be a big benefit for companies from a cash flow perspective, that they can get a significant part of the refund up front. So that'll be really helpful. In terms of other reliefs, we have the knowledge development box. It's not that widely claimed, but it gives you, if you develop certain types of IP and you exploit it, you can get a lower tax rate, 6.25% versus 12.5%. But the budget unfortunately announced that the rate, that 6.25 will go up to 10%. So that relief is there, but it's not that widely used, to be honest. Even at a multinational level, there's low take-up on it, and there's a lot of conditionality around the relief, which isn't helpful. And just, I suppose, some of the other issues to mention, just around R&D, and probably the talent issue and trying to get staff and skills into the business to do that activity. There is the KEEP scheme, so the key employee engagement program. So that's a share option scheme, approved share option scheme. So if you want to get people into the business, you're giving them options to buy shares at a later point in time, and they're getting a tax benefit in terms of they're paying capital gains tax when the shares are sold rather than income tax when they buy the shares. So that's probably a key tool that's there to look at if you're looking to grow your team and expand your team. That's certainly worth looking at. But I suppose outside of that, last week the budget, there wasn't an awful lot of tax-related measures. I suppose you'd be looking to the funding side in terms of what's available through grants and funding, more so than tax incentives.
Very good. I'm sure, Dermot, that's part of a bit of lobbying that you're doing as well, with I heard EG trying to push that agenda.
Yeah, so part of it's bringing the reliefs from 3 years down to 1 year, particularly for smaller enterprises, and accelerating some of those payments and things. So the developments in the budget and are good. Some of the details still to figure out in terms of what comes out in the tax, the Finance Act over the next couple of weeks. So some of the detail in the announcements was a little bit light. So we're still waiting to see the detail of those as well. Yeah.
No, very good. Just going to open up to the floor there for any questions that people might have for the guys up here or any of our previous speakers. If anybody has any questions. I know there's donuts and coffee waiting for us downstairs. And obviously the group are around. You have a question here, please. Yes.
It's not a question, it's more a comment. Somebody mentioned Hexafly. Was that you?
No. Sarah? Yeah, Ken.
Yeah. The reason I'm saying that is, if you're thinking of doing this course and you're thinking, I only have a half-baked idea, and I'd be a bit embarrassed about coming in and talking about my idea because it's not it's really not well formed. About 5 years ago, I got a phone call in the office from 3 what I would call kids straight out of college, and they asked me to come to one of their mother's farms, and we went into a little middle of nowhere in North Meath, and we went into a little greenhouse, and they showed me what they were doing. And I said, what the hell are you up to? And I was flipping these things away. They were growing Himalayan flies. And they're big black buggers of things. And I said, what are you doing these for? Well, we did a project at college, and we think there might be something for getting sustainable food for fish farms in this. Would you be interested in helping us? We put a few bob in, 40 million this morning.
40 million this morning, yeah.
So, you know, don't worry if your idea is half-baked. I think you're well used to half-baked ideas coming in.
Crazier the better, yeah.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for that. And I'm sure you're very proud of now in terms of, you know, the support that you gave those guys. Check is in the posts, yeah. They might buy you a pint anyway the next time they meet you. Yeah. Very good. Any other questions, folks?
Anybody else? Yes.
So I have a question. It's a little broader than this, but I think I'll just throw it out. So I have a startup idea where the primary market is not in Ireland for me, and it's in Africa, which unfortunately I think probably doesn't have the right branding and awareness in terms of the market potential here. A lot of what you see in the press in Ireland and the West about Africa is around 8. But I know the business potential there. I kind of have a feeling that when I speak to people to support the idea here, that lack of understanding of that market and the fact that it's not applying first here, it's not leading to the kind of support I know I can get on the idea. And I know that Ireland says the interest is in ideas that can be exported. But do those ideas need to be exploited in Ireland first before they're exported? Or can you create in Ireland not for the Irish market?
Yeah, I'm not going to try and answer that now because I know there's people here from local enterprise. Claire's going to answer that. Thank you.
Femi, I would say, from my point of view, as in reading business plans and funding applications every day, it's in how you communicate your market opportunity. It absolutely does not have to be implemented or explored in Ireland first. Obviously, for a lot of businesses, that's the easier first step. If it makes sense from a market potential to take that leap, do. But I think from onboarding, attracting investment or funding, it's about how you communicate that market opportunity. So I would push that back to you and say maybe it's a little bit more market research, or if that market knowledge is in your mind already, it's how you communicate that.
So I think when you hear Barry speaking there earlier on about his business, like there's a huge market. It's not Irish based. It's global, really, isn't it, in terms of what you're trying to achieve here? So it's not limited. And Enterprise Ireland is obviously all about export and trying to develop obviously jobs and exportation. So yeah.
And also one other thing that we can help you articulate and help you expand upon how you can get that research.
Very good. I'm sure the course is going to cover some of that as well, guys, is it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very good. Any final, maybe take a final question, guys, and we'll head downstairs then.
I wonder.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, the startups, obviously great to hear the stories, and we're always interested to hear the startup stories. Like, was there or is there one particular challenge that you faced that you felt if we could get over this, you know, things would be okay? Or is it just a series of every time you get over one, you know, there's another one coming down the tracks, depending on where you're at in the life cycle?
I mean, I suppose for us, we've kind of faced a lot of challenges from the start. Like, we started in 2017 with an MVP at the start for one customer, and like we still have a small customer base, but the challenges we have now is, like, one was funding. Like, we bootstrapped this from start to finish over the last number of years. We haven't taken on any investment to date. We haven't taken on any debt to date. We've done this all ourselves. If I had known myself now that maybe there was opportunity out there to be more helpful, we're now getting the help now. I wish I had got it maybe 2 years ago, but maybe part of that's my fault. Maybe didn't go directly looking for it either, because I thought I could do it myself. I proved myself wrong there. I can't do it myself. So different challenges, different times across the last 3 or 4 years, but funding would be one. Getting like-minded people to come on board that has the similar drive to kind of push it on and just get it done. But yeah, those are the two fundamentals for us. I know that. But we're kind of getting over the funding thing hopefully soon. So there you go. Oh, I know you were.
I just think of the challenge, the key challenge for us actually was a technical challenge where our closest competitor is load cells, where you weigh a silo. I wanted to use a laser sensor to take the height of medium in a silo, and dust in the silo was the key challenge we had to come around. So I tried everything, genuinely tried years of trying capacitive sensing, ultrasonics, and so on. And I guess the moment it sort of changed was the moment we said, well, let it get dusty, let the sensor become dusty. But let's design, so we accept that it's going to get dusty, but what we did then was we came up, we were the best at cleaning sensors. We're just a sensor cleaning company, really. So it got dusty, the sensor gets dusty, but the software in it knows it's dusty, and then it actually activates a cleaning mechanism without any moving parts. So that was, I guess, if there's magic in the product, that's where it's at. It's in how it cleans itself and how it maintains itself, and that's proven to be. It's going toe to toe with sensors of it's 1,200 quid. It's going toe to toe with sensors that cost £13,000 in the field in cement silos across the world. So it's from just to answer your question, that's the piece at which we let it happen, but we then specialised in fixing the problem rather than trying to prevent the problem. That was a painful process, I'll be honest. Well, that hurt that bit. So, but that's where all the support comes in, where you get a bit of runway to do that, and thankfully we had that.
Excellent. Just going to bring the event to a conclusion, guys. I suppose I'd like to declare the programme officially launched, and I would also like to wish anybody that does pursue that or goes in a different direction to pursue their ideas the very, very best. I'd like to thank our speakers, Robert, Barry and John, and also Dermot and Ken and Rosemary for their time tonight and for speaking to us. So thank you also yourselves for attending, and thanks for the local enterprise for hosting us and pulling this all together, if you like, in terms of this very innovative programme. So round of applause for everybody, and we'll see you downstairs for donuts.